Hi, this is Jerry Mona with BoaterInput.com. Today we're going to talk about how to wash and wax your boat. This is something that is important to do. Not many of us enjoy doing it, but it's something that your boat definitely needs. During our video today, I'm going to start off talking about why it's important to wash and wax your boat. I think it's fairly obvious to most, but we're going to cover why that's important. And then we're going to talk about the different types of products that you need to use in different situations. Describe the process, and then I'm going to end up showing you how to do that. But before we get started, if you haven't already visited BoaterInput.com, I encourage you to do so. I do studies with boaters. I share the findings on that site for you free of charge, and there's a lot of other great information on there. And I'll have a link to my website and the other products that we'll be using in this video in the description down below. So let's get started. The difference between boats such as my Bryant back behind me and a car or truck is that cars have what's called clear coat to protect the paint finish, whereas fiberglass boats like this have what's called gel coat. It's a thin layer on the outer surface that helps inhibit the UV rays and helps protect your boat and helps to maintain. It's what gives you that glossy mirror-like look. Over time and with the exposure to the sun and UV rays, that gel coat can and will break down. And you've heard the term oxidation. Well, that's what happens when that starts to break down, and then you may get a chalkiness or a dull finish. The way to protect against that is by applying a wax or a sealant on your boat periodically. So that's why it's important to do that. Okay, now what we're going to do is talk about the types of products to use to wash and wax your boat. And as I mentioned earlier, it depends a bit on the condition of your boat and what you're trying to do. Also, most people wax their boat about twice a year, the springtime and then again in the fall. Of course, that may differ depending on your situation. So if you're living in the upper Midwest and you have a short season and your boat's generally covered, once or twice a year is sufficient. If you're living down in the South or in Florida, or your boat is out in the sun a lot or stored outside, then you may need to do it a bit more often. Now, the first thing we want to do before you wax your boat is to give it a good cleaning, and so you have a variety of different soaps that you can use for that purpose, and I'll explain some of the different options there. The one thing that you'll find if you go to your marina or look online, you'll find something called a boat soap. And what that is intended to, if your boat is in pretty good shape and you actually don't want to strip the wax, but you just want to clean it in between waxing, then a boat soap is a good product to get for that purpose, because those are pH neutral and won't remove your existing wax. Okay, so that's if your boat has a coat of wax on it, you just want to keep it clean in between outings. If that's not the case, and let's say your intention is to clean your boat and then to wax it afterwards, then you'll want a product that may remove some of the existing wax to give you a good clean surface to work from. What a lot of people in our survey use, and what I'm going to use today, is simply Dawn dishwasher detergent. The thing about Dawn is that it doesn't have phosphates, so it's better for the environment than some other dish soaps, and does a pretty good job of getting rid of grease and grime. So that's what I'll be using today for that. Now, what some other people do is they'll take their boat soap and they may add a little bit of vinegar to it, and that also helps to remove some of the wax. So that's another way you can go. Now, if your hull has some stains on it or grime, it's left in the water and it's got some buildup, then you'll want something a little bit more aggressive. And so that's where things like hull cleaners come into play. So here's something called a hull cleaner, and this is going to be a little bit more aggressive of a product and will help get away some of the growth and the stains that's on your hull. So if your hull's in a little bit dirtier situation or it sits in the water, you got water stains, that's something to consider. I won't need that today because my boat is in decent shape. And a general principle that I want to mention today is you should always, when it comes to cleaning and waxing your boat, is always use the least aggressive approach that you could get away with, because the more aggressive approaches can A, be more harmful to the environment, and B, be more harmful to your boat. may help deteriorate or age your gel coat a little bit more, or the same with your vinyl. So always start with the least aggressive and only go to the more aggressive products as needed. Now when it comes to waxes, there are lots of different options to choose from, and frankly it's quite confusing. So you have your normal finishing waxes, the Carnauba wax, and in our survey, a couple of the brands that were very popular are the Meguiar's, obviously a big player in the automotive sector, very popular among boaters as well. Starbright, which really focuses on the boating industry, they're a very popular brand as well. Another brand that got really high ratings is Colonite, their Fleet Wax, and so those are a few of the brands to consider. So those are the normal Carnauba wax. Those are going to probably give you the best shine, but one of the things, that wax will typically last about 2 to 3 months in a normal situation, so just bear that in mind. Another type of a quote wax, it's actually a polymer or a sealant, is more in the synthetic wax or polish realm. And one such product, and this is what I'm going to be using today, is the Starbright Marine Polish. So this is a polymer, and apparently the advantage of this is it's supposed to bond better to your boat and therefore last longer. So rather than 2 to 3 months with a normal wax, this is supposed to hold up for 8 to 10 months. And I like the sound of that because I'm assuming, like many of you, I have other things to do with my time rather than spending it washing and waxing my boat. And so if I can get by and do it once a year as opposed to twice, that's saved me at least a half day of work. So that's what we'll be using today. Now, if your gel coat has some degrees of imperfection, meaning it's got some oxidation, it's got some heavy staining, maybe some scratches, then you're going to need to go to a more aggressive type of wax. And so that's when you get into things called like a cleaner wax. And so here's a product from Starbright called a cleaner wax. And what these do is they often have either some level of surfactant or soap and perhaps some mild abrasions. Okay, so it helps to polish, clean your outer surface, give you a better surface to work from before you go into to get you ready for the waxing. Okay, so that's a cleaner, maybe a little bit of abrasives in there, and it also has some polymer in there to seal it in the end. Although some people will do a cleaner wax first and then use a regular wax afterwards to give them the maximum shine. Now, if your gel coat is really faded and really chalky, you may have to go something more aggressive, and so that's where Starbright offers something called a Restore Wax, or you can look at some of the compounds. And I know Meguiar's offers a lot of compounds, Starbright offers compounds, 3M does as well. So that's when, in the case where you've got a really difficult situation with either scratching or oxidation that you need to take care of before you go into wanting to wax and protect the shine. So those are some products to use in a case where your boat is in need of some serious work. Look to that. But if not, don't use that, because like I said, that may age your gel coat sooner than necessary. Another couple of different types of waxes I want to touch on briefly. I don't have an example of this, but you have spray waxes, and the Lucas Oil Slick Mist was very popular in our survey amongst bass boaters, and it's something that you can just spray on and wipe off when you take your boat out of the lake. And so it's a really good product to use in between your trips, and folks who've used it and in our survey were really pleased with that product. And then you also have products called wash and wax, and so that's if your boat is newer or it's in really good shape and you don't need to go through all the rigors of cleaning it and then come back and waxing it. You want to do it in one fell swoop. That's where the wash and wax products come in. So it's probably not going to give you as much of a protection as if a straight wax or a polymer, but it will save you some time and good to do perhaps in the middle of the year if you just want to do it in a hurry. Okay, now that I have vacuumed out the interior of the boat and taken everything out of it, it's time to wash the boat down. A couple things to keep in mind. You'll want to start with the inside of the boat first before you move to the outside, because you don't want to splash. After you shine up the outside of your boat, you don't want to splash and mar that. And then the other thing too is you want to make sure you rinse the boat first before you do any scrubbing, in case there's any debris or pebbles or whatever, anything like that you don't want to pick up and scratch your surface. So rinse it down thoroughly before you do any scrubbing whatsoever. As you can see behind me, I've got my bucket of warm water with Dawn dish soap detergent in it, along with my scrub brush, and then I'm going to be using a power washer to rinse it down. You don't need to use a power washer. This just makes it easier, a little bit less elbow grease to cut some of the dirt and grime, but a regular hose and water will work just fine. So anyway, time to get wet. Now that the boat has been thoroughly washed and rinsed down, the next step is to dry it off, and a good product to use for this is these microfiber towels. They do a good job of removing any streaks or water spots, and are soft so they're not going to scratch your surface in any way. So before your boat gets totally dry, you'll want to wipe it down first. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. We have already thoroughly soaped and washed the boat, dried it off, and we've got it looking nice. The final major step is to apply a wax or a sealant to keep it looking that way. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to be using this product from Starbright called Premium Marine Polish. And again, the advantage of this is it should last 8 to 10 months as opposed to 2 to 3 with a normal wax. So that's what we're going to do. You just apply it in a circular motion with a rag on the boat, let it dry to a haze, and then you just wipe it off. In my case, I'm going to use a buffer just to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so just finished up with the boat, putting on the wax and pulling it off with the buffer and with the cloth, and you can tell it turned out really nice. It's got a good mirror-like finish. I think the product did a really good job. One of the things that I did like about that Starbright Premium Marine Polish is that it's liquid form, so it goes on a little bit easier to strip back off too than some of the other paste wax, so that'll save you some time. So one last suggestion to clean your windshields. Many of you, like me, have traditionally used Windex to do that, and that works pretty well. But some of you had suggested using vinegar and water instead, so I thought I'd give it a try, and I took a spray bottle and I made a 50-50 mixture of vinegar and water, and I sprayed it on my windshield. So I covered up the other areas so that I wouldn't have the vinegar and water getting on the clean waxed area that I just did, and wiped it off with a microfiber rag, clean microfiber rag. And it turns out the windshield is completely spotless, not a single water spot anywhere, so it looks great. Obviously it's very cheap as well. Just I just use a half cup of vinegar and a half cup of water, and that's all I needed, and it turned out really well. So there's another good suggestion for you. That concludes today's video on the basics of how to wash and wax your boat. I hope you found this information to be helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you have any other suggestions for topics to cover, I would love to hear that as well. Finally, be sure to check out BoaterInput.com and register. By doing so, you'll receive my latest research reports, and you'll also have a chance to take part in sponsored boater studies and earn Bass Pro and Amazon gift cards. So thanks again for watching, and happy boating.